if you're somebody who works in a relatively low-wage job and you've got to commute to work. It takes up a big chunk of your income. You may not be able to buy as many groceries. You may have to cut back on medicines in order to fill up the gas tank. So this is something that everybody is affected by. Now, here's the thing, we have been down this road before. Remember, it was just 3 years ago that gas prices topped $4 a gallon. I remember because I was in the middle of a presidential campaign. Working folks certainly remember because it hit a lot of people pretty hard. And because we were at the height of political season, you had all kinds of slogans and gimmicks. And outraged politicians, they were waving their three-point plans for $2 a gallon gas. You remember that drill, baby, drill. And we were going through all that. And none of it was really going to do anything to solve the problem. There was a lot of hue and cry, a lot of fulminating and hand-wringing, but nothing actually happened. Imagine that in Washington. The truth is, none of these gimmicks, none of these slogans made a bit of difference. When gas prices finally did fall, it was mostly because the global recession had led to less demand for oil. Companies were producing less, the demand for petroleum went down, prices went down. Now that the economy is recovering, demand is back up. Add the turmoil in the Middle East, and it's not surprising that oil prices are higher. And every time the price of a barrel of oil on the world market rises by $10, a gallon of gas goes up by about 25 cents. The point is the ups and downs in gas prices historically have tended to be temporary. But when you look at the long-term trends, there are going to be more ups in gas prices than downs in gas prices. And that's because you've got countries like India and China that are growing at a rapid clip. And as 2 billion more people start consuming more goods, they want cars just like we've got cars, they want to use energy too. Make their lives a little easier just like we've got it is. Absolutely certain that demand will go up a lot faster than supply. It's just a fact. So here's the bottom line, there are no quick fixes. Anybody who tells you otherwise isn't telling you the truth. And we will keep on being a victim to shifts in the oil market until we finally get serious about a long-term policy for a secure, affordable energy future. We're going to have to think long-term, which is why I came here, to talk to young people here at Georgetown. Because you have more of a stake in us getting our energy policy right than just about anybody. Now, here's a source of concern, though. We've known about the dangers of our oil dependence for decades. Richard Nixon talked about freeing ourselves from dependence on foreign oil. And every president since that time has talked about freeing ourselves from dependence on foreign oil. Politicians of every stripe have promised energy independence, but that promise has so far gone unmet. I talked about reducing America's dependence on oil when I was running for president. And I'm proud of the historic progress that we've made over the last 2 years towards that goal, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I've got to be honest. We've run into the same political gridlock. The same inertia that has held us back for decades. That has to change. That has to change. We cannot keep going from shock when gas prices go up to trance when. They go back down, we go back to doing the same things we've been doing until the next time. There's a price spike, and then we're shocked again. We can't rush to propose action when gas prices are high and then hit. The snooze button when they fall again. We can't keep on doing that. The United States of America cannot afford to bet our long-term prosperity. Our long-term security on a resource that will eventually run out. And even before it runs out will get more and more expensive to extract from the ground. We can't afford it when the costs to our economy, our country, and our planet are so high. Not when your generation needs us to get this right. It's time to do what we can to secure our energy future. And today, I want to announce a new goal, one that is reasonable. One that is achievable, and one that is necessary. When I was elected to this office, America imported 11 million barrels of oil a day. By a little more than a decade from now. We will have cut that by 1/3. That is something that we can achieve. We can cut our oil dependence. We can cut our oil dependence by a third. I set this goal knowing that we're still going to have to import some oil. It will remain an important part of our energy portfolio for quite some time. Until we've gotten alternative energy strategies fully in force. And when it comes to the oil we import from other nations, obviously we've got to look at neighbors like Canada and Mexico that are stable and steady and reliable sources. We also have to look at other countries like Brazil. Part of the reason I went down there is to talk about energy with the Brazilians. They recently discovered significant new oil reserves. And we can share American technology and know-how with them as they develop these resources. But our best opportunities to enhance our energy security can be found in our own backyard because we boast one critical renewable resource that the rest of the world can't match: American ingenuity. American ingenuity, American know-how. To make ourselves more secure, to control our energy future, we're going to have to harness all of that ingenuity. It's a task we won't be finished with by the end of my presidency, or even by the end of the next presidency. But if we continue the work that we've already begun over the last 2 years, we won't just spark new jobs, industries, and innovations, we will leave your generation and future generations with a country that is safer, that is healthier, and that's more prosperous. So today, my administration is releasing a blueprint for a secure energy future that outlines a comprehensive national energy policy. One that we've been pursuing since the day I took office. And cutting our oil dependence by a third is part of that plan. Here at Georgetown, I'd like to talk in broad strokes about how we can achieve these goals. Now, meeting the goal of cutting our oil dependence depends largely on two things. First, finding and producing more oil at home. Second, reducing our overall dependence on oil with cleaner alternative fuels and greater efficiency. This begins by continuing to increase America's oil supply. Even for those of you who are interested in seeing a reduction in our dependence on fossil fuels. And I know how passionate young people are about issues like climate change. The fact of the matter is, that for quite some time, America is going to be still dependent on oil in making its economy work. Now, last year, American oil production reached its highest level since 2003. And for the first time in more than a decade. Oil we imported accounted for less than half of the liquid fuel we consumed. So that was a good trend. To keep reducing that reliance on imports. My administration is encouraging offshore oil exploration and production as long as it's safe and responsible. I don't think anybody here has forgotten what happened last year. Where we had to deal with the largest oil spill in our history. I know some of the fishermen down in the Gulf Coast haven't forgotten it. And what we learned from that disaster helped us put in place smarter standards of safety and responsibility. For example, if you're going to drill in deep water, you've got to prove before you start drilling that you can actually contain an underwater spill. That's just common sense. And lately, we've been hearing folks saying, well, the Obama administration, they put restrictions on how oil companies operate offshore. Well, yes, because we just spent all that time, energy, and money trying to clean up a big mess. And I don't know about you, but I don't have amnesia. I remember these things. And I think, it was important for us to make sure that we prevent something like that from happening again. Now, today, we're working to expedite new drilling permits for companies that meet these higher standards. Since they were put in, we've approved 39 new shallow water permits. We've approved 7 deep water permits in recent weeks. When it comes to drilling offshore, my administration approved more than two permits last year for every new well that the industry started to drill. So any claim that my administration is responsible for gas prices because we've shut down oil production. Any claim like that is simply untrue. It might make for a useful soundbite, but it doesn't track with reality. What is true is we've said if you're going to drill offshore you've got to have a plan to make sure that we don't have the kind of catastrophe that we had last year. And I don't think that there's anybody who should dispute that that's the right strategy to pursue. Moreover, we're actually pushing the oil industry to take advantage of the opportunities that they've already got. Right now the industry holds tens of millions of acres of leases where they're not producing a single drop. they're just sitting on supplies of American energy that are ready to be tapped. That's why part of our plan is to provide new and better incentives that promote rapid responsible development of these resources.